The galaxy was never quiet. It was always filled with voices of ships, fleets, signals, and endless chatter from the stars. Yet on this day, there was something strange, something heavy in the air, a silence that wrapped around even the noisiest channels. And every alien commander felt it, though they did not say it out loud. For on the edge of the battlefield, a single human ship appeared, small in number yet enormous in presence. The alien fleet had been waiting, thousands upon thousands of ships stretched across the void, their weapons charged, their banners glowing in cold light, their commanders sitting proud in their thrones, all laughing as they saw the lone vessel glide slowly into view. It was nothing like their ships. It was plain, sharp, almost too simple, and this made them laugh louder, for they thought humans were foolish to face such a force with one fragile ship. Around the galaxy, news spread fast. The Council of Stars had declared this the final proof that humans were arrogant and doomed. For what people would dare to send only one ship into a war that consumed empires, one against thousands? It seemed like madness. It seemed like a show of weakness. And so the laughter spread like fire. Yet there were a few voices that whispered doubts. Young alien officers felt their scales crawl, their fur bristle, their minds tighten, for the silence of the human ship was not natural. It did not answer calls. It did not blink with signals. It simply floated with a patience that felt more dangerous than a fleet of 10,000 warships, and those who felt this unease kept quiet for fear of mockery from their superiors. The alien admirals shouted across the channels, calling the humans cowards, fools, and weaklings, daring them to speak, daring them to explain their madness. Yet the human ship said nothing. Its dark hull absorbed the starlight like a shadow drifting in endless space. And though it looked simple, it held a weight that no alien mind could fully measure. It was as if the void itself respected it, giving it room to breathe. One alien commander, proud and scarred from countless battles, leaned forward and sneered at his crew. He said that humanity was finished, that their desperate gamble would be crushed in seconds, and that the story would be told across the stars as the day humans fell. His crew cheered, their voices ringing to the cold emptiness, certain of victory before the battle even began. But still the human ship moved slowly, inching forward without haste, its engines barely glowing, as if it did not need speed, as if it knew something the others did not. And this only deepened the unease among those who watched carefully, for confidence so calm was dangerous, and silence so strong was heavier than fire. Across the galaxy, traders, soldiers, and citizens tuned into the battle channels, watching a single human ship enter the storm of alien fleets. Some laughed, some mocked, some pitied the humans, but others leaned closer to their screens, their hearts thumping without reason, because deep inside they felt they were about to see something no one had ever witnessed before. The alien armada stretched across light years, ships layered in formation like blades of steel, glowing shields overlapping, weapons burning with power, a sight that would crush any normal enemy. But the lone human ship did not alter its path, did not shake, did not even flinch. And this image froze in the minds of many. For courage or madness, it was something beyond understanding. Alien leaders from distant systems joined the live feed, eager to laugh, eager to watch humanity broken in front of them, eager to spread the tale of weakness. Yet in their chambers some of them frowned. For the human choice made no sense. No leader would sacrifice one ship unless that ship was more than it seemed, unless it carried something hidden, something so strong it did not need allies. The silence dragged on, minutes turning into an eternity. Alien ships circling like predators waiting to strike. The void pulsing with tension, and yet the human vessel remained steady, its hull black like stone carved from a dead star. And this sight filled the galaxy with a strange unease that no one wanted to name. An alien officer, young and bold, whispered to his commander that perhaps they should wait, that perhaps the humans had laid a trap. But the commander roared with laughter, calling the humans insects, saying no insect could trap a lion, and the fleet burst into more mocking chants. But beneath their laughter silence the lone ship grew heavier, pressing against their hearts like a storm they could not see. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the first shot, waiting for the moment when thousands of alien guns would tear the lone ship apart, waiting to see fire spread to the void. But still the human ship did not move. Still it did not fire. In that pause something happened, something subtle. The fear of the unknown began to spread. Whispers moved through alien crews. What if the humans knew something? What if the ship was not weak but strong? What if this was not a mistake, but plan? And though commanders barked and shouted, the fear did not fade. It only grew stronger, for every second of silence felt like a thunder that shook the heart. Then one alien fleet leader, tired of waiting, gave the order to charge weapons, his voice sharp with pride. An entire fleet hummed with deadly power, thousands of cannons glowing, missiles armed, energy crackling across the void, all aimed at the single human ship. And the galaxy leaned closer, ready to see the end. Yet the human ship did not retreat, did not signal surrender, did not even shift its path. Instead, it simply waited, silent, calm, steady, like a giant shadow staring into the eyes of smaller creatures. And in that moment, something unspoken echoed across the void, a thought that touched every heart watching. What if one ship was enough? The first volleys were about to be unleashed, the alien commanders ready to laugh as fire swallowed the lone human vessel. But even before the weapons fired, the silence of the human ship had already won a battle, for the galaxy trembled not with war yet, but with fear. Fear of what was hidden inside that quiet vessel. Fear of what humanity was about to show. Fear of the unknown. And so the opening moment of the great clash was not filled with explosions, not with victory, but with silence so sharp it cut deeper than any blade, a silence carried by a lone ship, a silence that made the galaxy tremble before the first shot was even fired. The alien fleet was alive with fire and fury, weapons charged, energy glowing across the endless void, commanders shouting orders with pride, soldiers cheering in their stations, eager to crush the lone human ship that dared to stand against them. They believed victory was certain. They believed history would remember this as the day humanity was erased. But beneath their voices was still the heavy silence of the human vessel, calm and unshaken, as if the storm of thousands meant nothing. The first commander gave the order. His fleet of 500 warships turned their guns. The void shimmered with power as cannons lit like suns. Missiles locked on target, beams of raw energy screaming to be released. And then the command was given, fire, and the galaxy gasped as the first strike began. The sky of space lit with fire, streaks of blazing energy tearing to the darkness, the roar of weapons echoing even through the comm systems, a wave of destruction meant to erase a single ship, and every alien crew leaned forward waiting to see the human vessel torn apart, waiting for metal to shatter, waiting for fire to consume the Challenger. Yet when the firestorm ended, the human ship was still there, untouched, unbroken, calm, its black hull glowing faintly as if a shield wrapped around it, the energy beams fading against it like rain against a mountain, and a silence heavier than before spread to the alien armada, a silence mixed with disbelief and fear. The alien commander roared. He refused to accept it. He ordered another volley, stronger, faster, more brutal, and again the fleet obeyed, thousands of shots flying into the void, explosions blooming across the stars, the light so bright it blinded watchers from distant systems. But when the glow faded, the human ship was still there, steady, untouched, unyielding, and the fear grew thicker. Across the galaxy, whispers began, messages racing through channels. How was this possible? What shield was that? What power did humans carry? No race had ever built such a defense. Not the Croft with their living armor, not the Zorth with their crystal shields, not the Empire fleets that had ruled for centuries. None had withstood such fire, yet the lone human ship stood still like stone against the sea. Alien admirals clenched their claws and teeth, their pride shaken. They told themselves it was a trick. They told themselves the ship could not hold forever, that with enough fire would break. But deep inside their hearts trembled, for they had seen many wars, and they knew strength when they saw it. And the strength of the human vessel, it was beyond reason. Inside the human ship's silence also reigned. The crew sat calm, their faces still, their hands steady. They did not cheer. They did not mock. They only watched with cold focus, their captain standing at the center of the command deck, his eyes fixed on the vast fleets ahead. He knew the galaxy was watching. He knew this moment was not just battle but message. Humanity would show the truth today. One ship was enough. The alien fleets gathered tighter. Commanders shouted. Their pride demanded victory. They could not accept weakness. They could not accept fear. They sent orders across the armada, surround the human vessel, crush it from all sides, unleash everything at once, drown it in fire until nothing remains. And so the void filled with motion, alien ships moving like tides around the lone vessel, closing the circle tighter and tighter. From distant stars millions watched, their screens glowing, their hearts racing. They had never seen such defiance, never seen such calm in the face of doom. Many who had mocked the humans now sat silent, unease crawling to their thoughts, while others whispered in awe, wondering if perhaps the stories of human spirit were not lies, wondering if perhaps humanity carried something no other race understood. The circle of alien fleets closed, their weapons glowing brighter than suns, power humming like storms ready to strike. And in that moment the human ship finally moved, its engines flaring softly, its black hull shifting just slightly, and the entire galaxy felt their breath catch, for after endless silence the humans had made their first move. The lone vessel drifted forward, slow and deliberate, as if daring the fleets to fire again, as if saying we're not afraid, and the alien commanders roar with anger, shouting to fire everything, unleash every cannon, launch every missile, erase this madness, and so the void exploded again with fire. But this time the human ship answered. Its black hull shimmered, lights across its frame lit like stars awakening, and then from its sides a storm of energy erupted, beams sharper than lightning tearing through the void, faster than the eye could follow. Cutting across the fleets with terrifying precision, one beam sliced through 3 alien battleships at once, another tore shields like paper, another shattered armor as if it were glass, and the laughter of the aliens died instantly. The galaxy screamed as thousands watched entire ships split apart in seconds, their glowing wrecks scattering across the stars, crews shouting in horror, admirals staring in disbelief. And still the human ship fired calmly, one shot after another. No rush, no wasted motion. Each strike perfect, each strike devastating. And the fleets that thought themselves invincible began to tremble. The young alien officers who had felt unease now cried out in fear, shouting warnings to retreat, begging their commanders to fall back. But pride held them. Pride told them they could not run. Pride told them they had numbers. Yet numbers meant nothing before such power. For every human shot cut down dozens, and every second the battlefield shifted in silence. The captain of a human ship stood tall, his voice calm, his crew steady, their movements practiced, their focus sharp. They did not need noise. They did not need cheers. They only needed precision. And the galaxy realized with terror that this was not chaos. This was control. And the lone human vessel was not a fragile ship, but a blade held by steady hands. Alien admirals screamed louder, sending more fleets forward, desperate to prove their power. But the more they pushed, the faster they fell. Ships burning, shields collapsing, wrecks floating across the void. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw fear in the eyes of the great empires. Fear born not from numbers, but from one ship, one vessel that refused to bend. The silence between the chaos was deafening. For every time the human ship ceased fire, the void grew heavier, aliens holding their breath, waiting for the next strike, knowing it would come, knowing nothing could stop it. And across the galaxy, millions whispered the same thought. If one ship can do this, what will happen if humanity sends more? By the end of the first clash, hundreds of alien ships floated wrecked in the void, their flames painting the stars. Their crews lost to silence, and still the lone human vessel drifted calm, its black hull untouched, its engine steady, its lights glowing like quiet suns, and the galaxy trembled not from fire, but from a question that now lived in every heart. What power had humans unleashed? The fleets regrouped, their numbers still vast, their pride still desperate, their weapons still ready. But in their eyes was fear, and in their hearts was doubt. For the silence of the human ship had spoken louder than any roar. It had shown the truth, and the galaxy could no longer laugh. The galaxy could only wait in terror for what came next. The battlefield drifted in fire and wreckage. Thousands of broken alien ships floated in silence, their remains glowing faintly against the endless black of space. The stars watching like cold eyes as the lone human vessel stood calm and unshaken, its dark frame reflecting the light of destruction around it. And across the galaxy the silence was heavier than any roar. Messages raced from system to system, whispers growing like storms, entire worlds asking the same question. How could one human ship stand against thousands? What kind of power was hidden inside that black vessel? What secrets did the humans guard in silence? And no one had answers, no admiral, no emperor, no scholar, only fear. Inside the alien fleet's confusion reigned. Commanders shouted to one another, voices shaking even when they tried to hide it. Some demanded retreat. Some demanded another charge. But none could ignore the wrecks of their own ships burning before their eyes. None could forget how easily the human vessel had turned their might to ash, and even the bravest felt a tremble in their hearts. The alien High Council sent messages to the commanders, demanding explanations, demanding victory. Their pride would not allow them to accept defeat. For they were the rulers of the stars. They were the empires that had crushed countless worlds. They were the power of the galaxy. And yet here, before one silent human vessel, they shook like children before a storm. In the command deck of the human ship, the crew remained calm, their faces steady, their voices low. They moved like shadows across glowing panels. No panic in their eyes, no hesitation in their hands. They were not surprised by victory. They had expected it. And this calmness made the galaxy fear even more, for it meant the humans knew their power. It meant this was not luck. It meant this was only the beginning. The captain stood in the center, his gaze sharp as he studied the fleets that still circled, his voice calm as he gave quiet orders, his words short and firm, his crew obeying with precision, every motion smooth as if rehearsed 1,000 times. And the ship itself seemed alive, humming softly with energy, waiting, watching, ready for the next strike. The alien admirals tried to rally their fleets. They shouted of honor, of pride, of empire. They told their soldiers that humans were weak and fragile. They told them that the first clash was only a mistake, that the humans had used tricks. But the soldiers had seen the truth. They had seen their friends burn in seconds. They had seen beams slice through armor as if it were air, and though they obeyed with fear in their hearts. The alien fleets tightened once more, their formations shifting. They thought perhaps if they changed their strategy, they could pierce the human defenses. They thought perhaps if they attacked from all directions at once, they might overwhelm the silent vessel. But deep inside, even the bravest wondered if anything could truly break it. And then the human ship moved again, slow and steady, drifting forward as if it did not fear them, as if the fleets around it were nothing more than shadows. And the silence was so heavy that many forgot to breathe, watching the black vessel drift through wreckage, its lights glowing faintly like fireflies in the void. The aliens fired again, desperate, their weapons blazing, their cannons roaring, the void filled with light, explosions shaking the stars. But again the beams faded against the shield of the human vessel. Again the firestorm ended with the ship untouched. And again silence followed. Thicker than before, heavier than before, a silence that broke the hearts of those who had once believed in their invincible power. Then the human vessel answered, its sides glowing brighter, its weapons alive with cold light. Beams of pure energy cut through the fleets, not wild, not rushed, but precise, each strike chosen with care, each strike ending a ship, ending a crew, ending hope, and in minutes more wrecks floated in the void, their flames painting the dark with sorrow. The galaxy trembled, millions watching from safe distances, their voices rising in shock. Some cried that humans were demons, others whispered that humans were saviors, but all agreed that nothing like this had ever been seen before. No single ship had ever stood so tall against a galaxy, and the truth spread like wildfire. Humanity was no longer to be mocked. Humanity had shown its blade. On alien homeworlds riots began, fear spreading faster than light. Citizens shouting at their leaders. Why had they attacked the humans? Why had they provoked a race capable of such destruction? Whispers filled every corner. Some demanded peace. Others demanded surrender. And still others begged to flee to the farthest corners of space, anywhere beyond the reach of the human vessel. The alien High Council still clung to pride. They ordered reinforcements. They sent calls across their empires. Gather every fleet. Gather every weapon. Crush the humans at any cost. They believed numbers could still win. They believed sheer power would break even the strongest shield. But their belief was already cracking, for deep inside they feared their words were lies. Meanwhile, in the human ship, the captain watched, his eyes calm, his hands steady. He did not smile. He did not boast. He only gave his orders with the same quiet tone. For this was not a game. This was not pride. This was a message carved into the stars. Humanity was no longer weak. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity had risen. The crew worked with the same silence, their discipline unshaken, each one knowing the weight of their mission, each one carrying the burden of the galaxy's gaze. They were not just fighting fleets. They were fighting centuries of belief, centuries of mockery, centuries of chains placed on humanity by those who thought themselves greater, and with every strike they shattered those chains. The alien admirals grew desperate, their voices cracking as they gave orders, their formations breaking as their fear spread. Some fleets began to pull back despite orders. Some commanders refused to charge. Some soldiers wept in silence as they realized they were nothing but prey before the black vessel, and the balance of the galaxy began to shift. The human ship advanced slowly, every movement deliberate, every strike controlled, leaving behind trails of burning wreckage, and the stars themselves seemed to shiver as a lone vessel carved its path. The galaxy no longer laughed. The galaxy no longer mocked. The galaxy could only watch in terror. By the end of the clash, the number of wrecked alien ships had doubled, their remains floating like a graveyard in the void, their flames dimming slowly, and the human vessel still stood untouched, still calm, still silent, and that silence spoke louder than any words. It spoke a strength of control of destiny. And across every corner of the galaxy, the whispers turned into truth. The humans were no longer a small race, no longer fragile, no longer weak. The humans had shown what one ship could do, and the galaxy trembled with the thought of what might come if humanity unleashed more. The galaxy was in chaos, and fear spread like fire in the void. The news of the lone human ship had already reached every world, every empire, every council, and the silence that followed each battle echoed across the stars like a drum of doom. People could not believe what they were seeing, and yet they could not deny it, for the wrecks of alien fleets burned bright against the black skies, and every eye saw the truth. The alien empires tried to hide their losses. They told their citizens that victory was close, that humans had only one ship, that humans were still weak. But no one believed. The whispers grew stronger, the fear heavier. Families cried for sons and daughters lost in the fire. Commanders begged for answers, and soldiers no longer marched with pride. Instead, they marched with trembling steps into the unknown. Inside the alien High Council, the leaders argued without end. Some shouted that they must destroy the human vessel at any cost. Others whispered that peace must be made before it was too late. Voices clashed, pride and fear colliding like storms. But no decision could erase the fact that fleets had been destroyed, fleets that were supposed to be invincible, fleets that had been the pride of empires. On human worlds, the story spread like light. Children spoke of the lone battleship with wide eyes. Elders whispered of destiny. Leaders remained silent, but their silence was heavy with meaning, for they knew the galaxy now saw humanity as something new, something different, something that could not be mocked or dismissed, and they knew the weight of that truth. The human battleship drifted through the wreckage, calm and silent, its crew steady and unbroken. They did not celebrate, they did not laugh. They worked with quiet discipline, their eyes fixed on their duty, for they knew that this was not the end. This was only the beginning of a storm that would decide the future of every star. The captain stood tall in the center, his voice low and steady, his eyes sharp as he studied the endless black. He spoke little, but his crew understood. Every order was clear, every move precise, and the ship itself seemed alive, humming with power, waiting for the next strike, waiting for the galaxy to decide if it would kneel or if it would burn. The alien fleets gathered again. Reinforcements called from distant systems. Thousands of ships forming walls of steel and fire. Their commanders swore to crush the lone vessel. Their pride demanded it. Their honor demanded it. But inside their hearts a shadow of fear remained, for they had seen what happened before. They had seen beams cut through armor. They had seen shields crumble like dust, and they wondered if their numbers would matter at all. As the fleets formed a massive circle around the human ship, silence returned once more, the stars holding their breath, the worlds waiting, and the lone vessel drifted in the center, like a predator surrounded by prey that did not know if it had the strength to fight or the wisdom to flee. The aliens fired first, waves of fire racing across the void, cannons roaring, missiles blazing, beams slicing to the black. The space between stars filled with explosions, and yet the human shield glowed calmly, absorbing the storm, holding steady, and when the fire ended, the ship still floated unbroken, untouched, silent. Then the human vessel answered, not with rage, not with chaos, but with precision. Its weapons lit like stars, beams shot forward, cutting through fleets with surgical strikes. Ships exploded one after another, not random, not wild, but chosen carefully, breaking formations, shattering lines, leaving holes in a massive circle until the fleet looked less like an army and more like scattered wreckage. The galaxy watched in silence, millions of eyes fixed on the battle, the fear growing, the disbelief turning to dread. For this was no accident. This was no trick. The humans had created something beyond imagination, a weapon so powerful that even the greatest empires could not stand against it, and the galaxy trembled with the thought of what might come next. The alien admirals tried to rally their soldiers. They shouted of courage, of duty, of sacrifice, but their words fell into silence. For the soldiers saw the truth before their eyes. They saw their comrades burning. They saw the black vessel untouched, and many turned their ships away. fleeing into the stars, abandoning their leaders, abandoning their pride, for survival was stronger than loyalty. The human ship moved forward, slow and steady, not chasing, not rushing, but claiming the field with silence, every wreck behind a grave of arrogance, every strike a lesson carved into stars, and with each movement the galaxy understood more clearly. This was no ordinary ship. This was a voice of humanity speaking louder than words. This was a warning that could not be ignored. On distant worlds, scholars whispered of ancient prophecies, of small races rising against giants, of storms that began with silence. Some claimed humanity was chosen by fate. Others claimed humanity was cursed. But all agreed that the galaxy would never be the same again. The balance had shifted. The age of mocking humans was over, and a new age had begun. The alien councils finally cracked, voices of surrender rising louder, voices of fear drowning pride, and even the greatest emperors felt the weight of doubt, for they knew that if one ship could do this, then what would happen if humanity unleashed more? What would happen if fleets of human ships filled the stars? And that thought was heavier than any battle, heavier than any loss. Inside the human battleship, the crew remained silent. They did not speak of victory. They did not speak of glory. They spoke only of duty, for they knew the war was not yet won. They knew more fleets would come. They knew the galaxy would not kneel easily. But they also knew that humanity had already shown its strength. Humanity had already broken the silence, and nothing would ever erase that. The captain watched the stars with calm eyes, his voice steady as he gave the next orders. His crew obeyed without question, and the ship turned slowly, leaving behind a graveyard of wrecks, moving toward the next field, the next battle, the next chapter of a war that had already shaken the galaxy to its core. Across the stars, whispers became truth. The humans had risen. The humans had spoken, and the galaxy trembled with fear and awe. No one knew what would come next. No one knew how the story would end. But all knew one thing. The lone human ship had made the galaxy tremble, and the tremble would not end soon. The galaxy did not sleep as the story of the lone human ship spread faster than light. It reached every world, every moon, every station, and with it came fear and wonder mixed together like storm and fire. People whispered in crowded markets. Leaders argued in hidden chambers, and soldiers stood frozen by the thought that one human ship had done what no empire had ever managed to do. The balance of power was broken, and no one knew how to fix it. On the alien capital world's news screen showed the wrecks of mighty fleets floating dead in space. The images were meant to be hidden, but nothing could stay hidden in a galaxy so wide and so connected. Smugglers carried tales. Traders spread stories. Survivors carried scars. And soon every citizen knew that their armies had failed and their leaders had lied. The fear turned into anger, the anger into despair, and trust in governments began to crack. The alien councils met again in secret chambers with walls thick as mountains and guards strong as iron. Their voices thundered with rage and fear. Some demanded the destruction of the humans at any cost. Others begged for surrender before more worlds burned, and yet no one could find a clear path. For the humans had revealed only one ship, and if one ship could destroy entire fleets, then who could know how many more were hidden in the dark void of the stars? Meanwhile, the human battleship moved silently through space, leaving behind graveyards of wreckage and echoes of fear. Its crew still calm, their faces steady, their eyes sharp. They worked with discipline that seemed unshakable, as if they already knew the burden they carried, as if they already understood that every move they made was carving the future of their entire species into the memory of the galaxy. The captain stood in the command chamber, the glow of screens lighting his face, his voice deep and calm as he gave orders. His crew obeyed without hesitation. The ship responded like a living being, and together they drifted toward the next system, not rushing, not chasing, but moving like a storm that knew it would be felt no matter how far it traveled. On a distant alien world, a group of young soldiers watched the reports with pale faces. Their training officers told them to fight, to be proud, to be strong, but in their hearts they asked the same question again and again. How can we fight what cannot be broken? How can we win against something that turns our fleets to fire with only a whisper of power? And no one gave them an answer that felt true. Across the galaxy, merchants and smugglers began to avoid human space. Trade routes bent away. Stations refused passage. Not out of hate, but out of fear. For no one wanted to be caught in the path of the lone battleship. No one wanted to be near when history was being rewritten. And so human space grew quieter, wrapped in a silence that was not weakness, but silence of respect and caution. The alien admirals still tried repair. They built new fleets, They trained new soldiers, they designed new weapons. But whispers filled their halls, whispers that perhaps nothing would work, whispers that perhaps humanity had risen beyond reach, whispers that drained courage faster than any enemy fire, and those whispers spread like sickness into every heart. The human battleship reached another system, one ruled by a minor alien empire that had sworn loyalty to stronger lords. Its fleet waited with trembling courage. Thousands of ships and lines that stretched like walls across the stars. Their commander spoke of honor. Their soldiers spoke of sacrifice. But their eyes revealed doubt. Their voices carried fear. And when the lone ship arrived, silence fell over the entire battlefield. The first shot came from the aliens, desperate and bright. Missiles streaking across the black, beams of light cutting forward. The roar of battle filling the void. Yet when the smoke cleared, the human ship still drifted calmly. Its shield glowed like a second sun, unbroken, untouchable. And in that moment the hearts of the alien soldiers cracked. Courage turned to dust, and their fleet scattered in chaos before the humans even answered. The captain of the human vessel gave the order, and the ship fired with precision once more, not with wild rage, but with cold discipline. Every beam a blade, every strike a lesson. The alien fleet collapsed in pieces. Ships burned, wrecks scattered. Survivors fled into the dark, and once again the lone vessel claimed the field without mercy and without loss. News of this new victory reached the galaxy faster than light, and now even the strongest empires began to tremble. No one could deny the truth any longer. No one could pretend that humanity was weak. The galaxy understood at last that the age of mocking humans had ended forever. A new age had begun, and no one knew if it would end with peace or fire. On human worlds, the people watched with mixed hearts. Pride burned bright in their souls, but fear also grew, for they knew the galaxy would not stop. They knew that envy and anger would keep sending fleets. They knew the battleship could not fight forever, and they wondered if humanity was ready for the storm it had unleashed, a storm that could bring victory or destruction. In the alien council, silence grew heavier. Leaders who once shouted with pride now whispered in fear. Generals who once swore loyalty now questioned their duty. And some began to speak secretly of peace. Some began to imagine treaties and surrender, for they saw that resistance only brought ruin, and the thought of endless ruin was heavier than their pride. The lone human ship moved on again, its engines glowing, its weapons quiet for now, its crew steady as stone, and in the silence of the void they carried the weight of every life, every world, every dream of their people. They carried the fear of their enemies and the hope of their kind. They carried the future of humanity itself. And they knew the galaxy was watching every step. The captain looked into black and saw not just enemies, but history itself unfolding before his eyes. He spoke softly to his crew of duty, of patience, of strength, and they listened with unwavering faith, for they understood that they were no longer just soldiers. They were the voice of their race. They were the storm that carried both fear and hope into the endless night. The galaxy trembled still. Whispers grew louder. Fear grew heavier, and the question spread from world to world. What will humanity do next? Will they conquer? Will they rule? Will they destroy? Or will they build? And no one could answer, not even the humans themselves, for the path was still hidden, the story still being written, and the future still waiting in silence. The galaxy was no longer the same after the fall of yet another fleet, and even the strongest rulers could feel the shadow of fear crawling across their worlds. The lone human ship had changed everything, and its name was spoken in every hall, in every chamber, in every place, where voices whispered of war, and peace no one could escape the echo of its power. In the alien academies, young soldiers trained with fire in their hearts, yet that fire was laced with doubt, for they had seen the recordings of battles, and no lesson, no drill, no weapon gave them answers to what they had witnessed. They learned to aim, they learned to fight, but in their secret thoughts, they wondered if training was just a ritual to hide the truth that against humans they would fall like leaves before storm winds. In the marketplaces of distant colonies, traders lowered their voices and exchanged rumors with wide eyes. Some said the humans had built hundreds of ships like the lone vessel, hiding them in secret hangars beyond dark stars. Some said the lone ship was not a machine, but a living creature born from the core of Earth itself. Some whispered that the humans had made a pact with forces beyond the galaxy, and that their ship was proof of power not, meant for mortal beings, and so rumors grew larger with every telling, and fear became heavier with every step. Inside the councils of the alien empires, the leaders sat around long tables glowing with maps of star systems. Their voices were sharp like blades, but their eyes revealed storms of doubt. One ruler slammed his fist and shouted that humanity must be erased before it claimed the galaxy. Another ruler whispered that it was already too late, and that they should beg for peace, another ruler sat silent, staring into the star maps as if already mourning the worlds that would soon be lost to fire. The human ship did not hurry. It drifted with calm across the stars, and every move it made was seen as a sign. Every turn, every signal, every silence was studied by spies and analysts across the galaxy. They wanted to know if it was heading to conquer, if it was heading to destroy, or if it was heading to send a message, and yet the truth remained hidden within the steel and silence of its walls. The crew inside the ship lived with discipline and patience. They spoke little, for they did not need words. Their unity was their strength, and their silence was their power. Each member understood that they carried more than weapons. They carried the spirit of Earth. They carried the memory of humanity's long struggle, from caves to cities, from villages to nations, from weakness to strength, and now they carried the destiny of their kind into the heart of the galaxy. The captain stood at the command bridge with eyes that did not waver. He saw beyond the stars. He saw the fear of his enemies and the hope of his people. He knew that every victory had planted seeds not only of respect, but also of rage, for fear could turn into surrender. But fear could also turn into fury, and fury could lead to desperate acts that could burn worlds without meaning. He carried this knowledge like a weight on his shoulders, yet his voice never trembled when he spoke to his crew. In the shadowed corners of the galaxy, secret groups began to rise, rebels, mercenaries, traitors who no longer trusted their rulers. They whispered that the old empires were broken. They whispered that humanity was the future. They whispered that those who sided with humans early would survive the storm. And so small groups began to send hidden signals toward human space, offering loyalty, offering trade, offering knowledge, and slowly a new web of power began to weave across the void. On a distant world ruled by an ancient empire, the citizens gathered in public squares to watch screens that showed the fall. Yet another fleet, some wept, some cursed, some shouted at their leaders, demanding answers and protection. But none came, and as silence filled the air, a new thought began to grow in their hearts. Perhaps their rulers were no longer strong. Perhaps the age of their empire was ending. And perhaps the age of humans was rising before their very eyes. The human ship reached the edge of another system, and the sensors of the local defense fleet screamed with alarm. The alien commanders shouted orders. Their ships formed lines. Their soldiers gripped controls with shaking hands, and they swore to protect their worlds with their lives. Yet their eyes betrayed the same fear that had broken every fleet before them. They knew the tales. They knew the truth. And though they fired their weapons, a moment the human ship appeared there. Courage cracked like glass. The battle that followed was short. The aliens unleashed storms of fire. Their missiles painted the void with light. Their beams tore across space like rivers of energy, yet the human ship drifted through it all like a mountain untouched by waves. When it finally answered its strike, was swift and final. Ships broke apart, fleets scattered, commanders lost their voices, and silence returned as the wrecks drifted in cold space once more. The galaxy felt the weight of this new defeat heavier than all the others, for now it was not just the strong who had fallen, but also the desperate and the brave. And if even the desperate and brave could not stand, then who couldn't the quiet? After the battle messages spread faster than light, messages filled with fear, with surrender, with hidden pleas for peace, and the galaxy shivered at the thought of what tomorrow might bring. Inside the councils, the voices of war grew weaker, and the whispers of surrender grew louder. Some leaders spoke of secret peace talks, others spoke of offering tribute, others spoke of kneeling before the humans, if only to protect their people from ruin. Yet pride still clung to many hearts, pride that refused to bend, pride that refused to yield, and that pride threatened to bring even greater destruction. The humans did not reveal their intentions. Their ship drifted forward like a shadow of fate, carrying silence as its shield and discipline as its weapon. The galaxy waited, holding its breath. No one knew where the ship would go next. No one knew if it would demand rule or offer peace. No one knew if the silence of the ship was mercy or warning. The captain stood with calm eyes and steady breath. He looked upon the stars not as enemies, but as a vast field of history waiting to be written. He knew that his decisions would echo across the galaxy for generations to come, and he carried that truth without fear, for he believed in his people. He believed in the strength that had carried him from Earth to the stars, and he believed that no empire, no fleet, no weapon could crush the will of humanity. The galaxy trembled still, and the whispers grew into storms. Every world, every moon, every station asked the same question: what would happen when the lone human ship finally reached the heart of the great empires? Would it bring fire? Would it bring peace? Or would it bring something far greater that no one yet understood? And as the stars burned silently above, the question remained unanswered. The galaxy was stretched thin as fear and doubt reached every corner, and even the most powerful empires felt weak in the shadow of the lone human ship that moved with calm, yet struck with thunder. No one could deny the truth that the order of the stars was shifting, and a new age was rising slowly yet surely. On the world of the Grand Council, thousands of leaders from many races gathered under one great dome. Their voices were sharp, their faces strained, and their pride wounded by the endless defeats they had faced against the lone vesselverse. Some leaders shouted that humanity must be destroyed with one great strike, while others whispered that surrender was the only path left, and yet none could agree, for pride and fear stood locked together like chains. The human ship was now near the very heart of the galaxy, and every move it made was recorded by spies, by fleets, by wandering traders. Its silence was more terrifying than any roar, for in silence the galaxy imagined 1,000 outcomes. Some imagined destruction of all empires, some imagined chains of human rule, and some imagined salvation and unity under a banner not their own. The mystery of its purpose was the fuel that burned in every mind. The captain stood at the bridge, his crew watching with quiet trust. His voice was calm, his eyes steady. He told them that their mission was not yet done, and that the galaxy must see not just the strength of humanity, but also the spirit of humanity, for strength alone could break, but spirit could build. He knew the power they carried could end worlds, yet he also knew that power could also reshape the galaxy for a better dawn, if used with wisdom. In hidden chambers, some alien rulers sent secret messages toward Earth, offering tribute, offering odes, offering knowledge in exchange for mercy. Others sent fleets in desperation, hoping to end the human threat before it claimed the stars. And yet every desperate fleet had fallen one after another, leaving only debris and silence. In their wake, the truth was now clear to all. No weapon, no number, no courage had been enough to break the path of the lone ship. In the streets of alien worlds, the common people whispered of change. Their rulers had failed, their armies had failed, their pride had failed, and now the idea of humanity had become like a seed in their hearts. They spoke not only of fear, but also of wonder, for they asked what kind of people could rise from a single world to stand against the galaxy, what kind of history shaped such resolve, and what kind of vision carried them so far. The name of humanity was no longer just a word, it was a force. The human ship entered the space around the Grand Council world, and alarms blazed across the system. Defense fleets scrambled, weapons charged, soldiers braced with trembling hands. But deep in their hearts, they already knew the truth. They had seen this story before, and it always ended the same. The lone ship drifted with calm and silence, like a shadow that no storm could touch, and as the fleets locked on with weapons, the captains of those fleets hesitated. Their courage cracked, their fear grew, and their silence betrayed them. The captain of a human ship gave a command that carried to the vessel like thunder, yet not destruction. He ordered a signal to be sent, a message carried on waves of light across the stars. The message was simple, yet unshakable. It told the galaxy that Earth had no wish to burn worlds, that Earth had no wish to rule through chains, but that Earth would never kneel before any empire again. It told the galaxy that humans had risen from dust and struggle, and that their spirit could not be broken. It told the galaxy that peace was possible, but only if it was built on respect. The message echoed across the halls of the Grand Council, and the rulers who heard it were divided. Some roared with fury, shouting that humans lied and only sought dominion. Others fell into silence, feeling the weight of truth in those words, for they knew that humanity had never once asked for tribute or for slaves or for crowns. It had only asked to stand free in the stars. In the streets of alien cities, the people heard the human message through hidden channels and through whispers that spread like fire. They listened, and for the first time many felt not just fear, but hope, for humans wished only for freedom. Then perhaps they too could share in such a dream. Perhaps the galaxy did not need to kneel before thrones of fear. Perhaps it could be shaped by will and unity instead of chains. The Grand Council ordered the fleets to fire and fire. They did. The skies above the council world turned into rivers of flame and thunder, as weapons unleashed storms of power upon the lone ship. Yet once again the vessel of Earth moved with calm. The storm shattered against its shield like waves against stone. And then with a single strike of energy, the human ship disabled the weapons of the council fleet. Without ending their lives, the wrecks drifted, powerless but intact, and silence fell heavier than ever before. The galaxy now understood that the humans had not come for conquest would have meant fire, and ruin. The humans had come to show that strength could stand without cruelty, that power could protect without chains. The captain gave one final signal, and in that signal, he declared that humanity would walk the stars free, and that any who sought peace with them would find peace, but any who sought their end would find silence. The rulers of the Grand Council sat broken in their chamber. Their voices lost their pride, shattered, their fleets powerless. They could no longer deny the truth. Humanity had not just defeated their ships, it had defeated the idea that they ruled the galaxy. It had defeated the illusion that empires were eternal, and it had given birth to a new age that none could stop. The lone ship turned and left the council world, drifting once more into the stars, leaving behind not destruction, but silence. And in that silence, new voices began to rise, voices of people who dreamed of a different tomorrow, voices of young soldiers who questioned old orders, voices of traitors who dreamed of new paths, voices of entire worlds who no longer feared humanity, but respected it. The galaxy trembled still, but now it trembled not only with fear, but with the weight of change. The lone human ship had not just broken fleets, it had broken the chains of thought. It had shown that even one ship, even one people, even one spirit could shift the order of stars. The captain stood at the bridge as the stars stretched before him, his crew silent, yet strong around him. He knew their journey was not done, for the galaxy would test them again and again, but he also knew that the spirit of Earth was unshakable. The lone ship had carried fear in the galaxy, but it also carried hope, and hope was a weapon no empire could destroy. And so the human ship drifted on to the endless dark, carrying silence, carrying fire, carrying destiny, while behind it the galaxy whispered with awe and fear and wonder, the lone ship that had made the galaxy tremble.